This is the way we should tell a story. Don't give 100 years of background. Open with the big thing that happened. We were all like this and then boom. That's the way to begin. Leap in. Don't be like, oh, I was like, yada, yada.
In French, we call that the hook, right?
That's French?
No, it's not. It's English.
Welcome to the Marketing Academy Podcast by GCMO, where in every episode we sit down with a marketing expert to deep dive into a hot topic shaping the industry. I'm Yitzy Tannenbaum. Let's get started.
Welcome to the Marketing Academy Podcast by GCMO. I'm Yitzy Tannenbaum, and today we have a really good one for you today. Helen Gottstein from Loud and Clear. And the reason I asked Helen to come is because Helen is an expert in a topic that I feel most marketers either know very little about, but we all need to do it. We're expected to do it. We're expected to be, I'm sure our listeners are very excited to hear what it is building a presentation, public speaking, building your personal brand, making your voice heard. So I know, Helen, you do all of that stuff, and a long intro, but I'll let you quickly introduce yourself.
I feel like I don't need a whole lot of introduction after that glowing welcome. I think that everybody, not just marketers, but everybody needs help clarifying their messages, making sure they reach their audiences. And marketers are not alone in that. And I love the opportunity to be here because writers find it really hard to write for themselves. Public speakers find it really hard to speak about themselves, and marketers find it really hard to market themselves. So the tools that I'm going to offer today, which I hope will be very practical, very doable, very hands-on, so you listen to this fabulous podcast with the fabulous Yitzy in the gorgeous Google for Startup studio and be like, boom, chakalaka, I can do that right now, today. Listen and apply. That's how we're going.
But why is it important to market yourself, right? My job is to market my company, my brand, my product. I am not the star here. I almost think of it as a spokesperson for a politician, right? The star is a politician. I should be in the background promoting them. Why is it important for me to promote myself?
Because even if you're a promoter of a politician, you have to demonstrate your value. That's about building your own brand as an effective promoter. And today, I think that all of us see ourselves as not necessarily self-employed, but responsible for letting others know that we're in the business, we're in the game, we're doing stuff, we're out there. Building your own brand for yourself is as important as for whatever product or company you're working with.
Could we double click on that? What are the tangible benefits of having a strong personal brand?
How long do you have?
Probably be between 45 minutes.
Yeah, but I also want to get really practical. Right. So there is a direct relationship between visibility, credibility, and how easy it is for you to get your next gig, get a promotion, get a speaking opportunity, all the things. There's a direct relationship to them. I am against the whole Cinderella Syndrome of as long as I do my job well enough, I'll be rewarded. Look deep into my small beady eyes. No, it's not happening. We need, all of us, when we speak up, when we get a picture of ourselves holding a microphone, people are like, oh, she knows something. Oh, they're doing something. That's how we roll.
I think that's a really important point. I feel like when I come into a company, especially as a product marketing manager, I'm expected to work very closely with a lot of teams, but those teams don't report to me. They don't owe me anything, and they don't necessarily want to listen to me. And I think what is unique about what we're going to talk about today is earning a seat at the table, earning trust, even when on paper they don't need to listen to you, but it's how do I get them to want to listen to you? What
I want to do is share some very practical tools so that anyone who's listening to this can speak up more with greater clarity, with greater power, and feel that they're presenting themselves with self-respect. Respect for the audience, respect for their material, and respect for themselves. RESPECT, I'm going to tell you what it means to me, possibly at length. Okay.
Let's go. Let's get it started.
So the first idea that I want to share relates perhaps to people who are newer in the game, but depending on how you're wired, it may also be good for people who've been in the market for longer or being in marketing for longer. First tip is, when you're in a marketing meeting, respond faster. The longer you wait, the harder it becomes to overcome the anxiety that builds as you decide, was it a good idea? Was it not a good idea? Speak up faster. That's what we call the babble effect. People who speak up more are regarded as being more likely to be seen as leadership material. For example, Yitzy Tannenbaum, who has his own podcast, is more likely to be seen as somebody who is a credible figure who could be consulted with than somebody who doesn't. It's a smart move to be photographed here on a gorgeous background. Did we mention Google for Startups? I think we did. I think that's the second mention.
But I will say that not only is it important to speak fast, but sometimes when I have a thought or a question or a comment, I almost stop listening to the meeting and stop being engaged in the meeting and just thinking about when could I get my comment in, or when can I speak up. And I'm almost disconnected from what's happening because that idea that I have in my mind is just cultivating and building, and I'm building up that anxiety. And I'm almost disconnected from the meeting at that point.
I think it's really true. Like, this is like two sides of the coin, right? The longer we wait, the more anxiety rises if you're wired that way. And the more likely it is that what you want to say will be disconnected from the flow of the meeting. So there are two real advantages to speaking up faster. Having said that, I don't think that anybody is pro people in a meeting speaking up just for the sake of having their voice heard and not saying anything they care about, know about, feel anything about. We speak when we have a reason to speak. Otherwise, it's not respectful of the people in the room.
But I think that's going to be most people's worry. People will say, look, I really want to say this thing, but is it good enough? Is it smart enough? Will it make me, you get into your head, and, we're our own worst critic, right? And so we'll tell ourselves, oh, look, should I really say this? And then we get so looped into our head that we're not quick, we're not fast. So how do I know, or how do I gain the confidence to say the thing that I think and not get into my own head and feel, that
it won't be good enough, that somebody else will say it better, all the things, all the automatic negative thinking that rises up. We call it the voice of doubt. We could call it your worst next door neighbor, all sorts of things. So one of the things that we can do is develop what I call self-compassion. Let go of perfection. The idea that I should only speak when what I'm going to say is perfect keeps a whole lot of people silent. So practice a little kindness. Look around the room and say, am I the dumbest person in the room? Probably not. Am I the smartest? I don't have to be the smartest. I also don't have the responsibility to be the voice. My job is to be a voice, my voice, and speak up when I have something to say. That's it. So let go of perfection. That's number one. Number two, nobody knows the script. So you have a thought, which we usually see as a picture, right? It's a picture that we then translate into words. But the picture, it's never going to be perfect. In fact, public speaking, it's never going to be perfect. The job is to say something well enough and then get better every time. That's your job. Improve, just like you want to move the needle on your marketing skills or your understanding of how to read data. We're all getting better all the time. So let go of needing to go viral the first time you speak. Honey, relax.
And you have good ideas, even if you're in a room with people way smarter than you or people way more senior than you. Sometimes you have a fresh eyes. And I think people are, at least from my experience, are pretty sympathetic and forgiving. If what you say really is as you think in your mind, it probably isn't. But if it really is just then not that smart or not that important, then you know what? Nothing happened. We'll move on. Well, it's great you have a voice. If you don't have a voice, if you're just sitting there quietly and saying, then you're not providing value, I guess.
You're going to fade into the background. It would be like if I sat where you are. I'm a blonde white woman and Yitzy is against a cream beige coloured background. If I was to sit there, mainly I would look like a mouth making noise. That would be like you would fade into the background. You can do that in a meeting. You can do it in 2 meetings. If you do that in every meeting every week for 5 months, honey, you're not getting seen. You're not doing yourself a service. You're not being respectful of what you know.
What else? So speak quickly, speak fast. That's number one. What else?
Practice self-compassion and let go of perfection. That I put out there. And also there is no script. No one can correct you. I also want to relate to what you said about people being forgiving. I was really struck by that because the ear is more forgiving than the eye. I give you a page of text. It has one typo. What do you see?
The typo.
Shalom, hello, and in the house. It's what we see, right? But the ear automatically edits out the reversal that you do, the false take of the beginning of the sentence. The ear automatically edits for meaning. So stop beating yourself up that you said that you had a false start. Everyone else in the room is forgiven and forgotten, has just moved on because they're driving for the content that you are sharing.
When I edit the podcast or listen to myself back, I'm like, oh my God, I stuttered here or I restarted the sentence there. And I'm beating myself up. And then people listen to it and say it's amazing. I'm like, wait, did we not hear the same thing? And I think that's a great example that when I listen to myself, I'm super critical. But when other people listen, I guess they just filter out those filler words, the the restarts. And I think that's sage advice for everyone, but specifically for those non-native English speakers.
I appreciate that. I think the filter is truly in place. And I want to say more about speaking in a second language, which of course also affects me. I'd like to share very deeply. I'm leaning forward to the mic as I say this. In Hebrew, I sound French. You're welcome. Everyone has an accent. The only thing an audience cares about is the meaning that you are making. So there are some word choices. If you don't know a particular term that is crucial to your sphere of professional expertise, friend, you need to get on top of core professional vocabulary. There's no excuse. I worked with a life coach one time and she was saying, I take people on a gurney. I'm like, you don't want to take people on a gurney, hun. No, you might want to take them on a journey. Your gurney should stay at home or else in the ambulance. I'm not sure. Okay. Core vocabulary, obligatory, but no one is listening for your exact grammatical correctness. No one cares. Everyone is focused on themselves and they're listening for meaning. I'll go on. Get over your accent, but because your job is to drive for content, this is the way we drive for content. You work your mouth harder. I just came from preparing a team that's going to speak at RSA, a cybersecurity company. I'm sitting across from the guy who's one of the people who's going to speak. I'm being paid to listen. And he said something and I was like, I don't understand what you said. And the word that he had used in the sentence was the word organization, a word I know quite well. But I couldn't understand it because he wasn't working his mouth. People, if you are speaking in a second language, make your mouth work harder. And that means slightly exaggerate the shape of each syllable. It's not hit the D, G, G, K, R sounds harder. It's the syllables. It's like the shape of the language makes in your mouth. Work harder. You're brilliant. That's upstairs. Make your mouth work harder to convey your brilliance. The other thing that we can do is another act of self-compassion. Slow down just a little. Turn down the dial from 150 miles per moment, per second, to 130. A little slower means that you have more time, more intellectual bandwidth to deliver the next word in this more difficult verbal sequence that you're rolling out. It's harder to speak in a second language. Be kinder to yourself. Be nice. Be kind.
When it comes to speaking slowly, I've gotten this advice way back where in your mind, it has to feel almost like you're speaking too slow. And a great example for that I really like is no matter where you are in politics, Barack Obama, who's considered an amazing speaker, the time it takes that man to get a sentence out, my fellow Americans.
Hilarious.
Today, right? You just, you're like, but he's considered one of the most charismatic and amazing speakers. And if you happen to listen to him or just check out a quick a YouTube clip of him, you'll see that he takes his good old time. Every word feels extremely thought out. Obviously, you need immense confidence and control of a room to get there. But I think we get nervous, so we're afraid we're going to lose the audience. So we start speaking really, really quickly, and then words get lost. We lose our trains of thought, and
you trip yourself up in your words. I'd love to take the example of Obama, who speaks really slowly in everyday speech. His texts are edited down to the bone, so his delivery is slow and homey and warm and straight from the heart. He wastes no words.
Right. And again, I think in our mind, we're so worried that we're going to lose the audience. And I think it's a lack of confidence. If you're uber confident, like Barack Obama, you'll take all the time in the world and think of every single word you say. So that's really important advice. But what do you think of the idea of, in your mind, even like sounding a little, it's almost too slow? How do you feel like? Because I think people in their mind are so running so quickly that if you feel a little too slow, what's your take on that?
I think there are people who speak too slow.
Okay.
That's what I think. I think it makes sense to turn the dial down from rapid first language delivery to second language delivery. I saw a TED talk recently where the speaker had been advised to speak slowly. And I was like, it's excruciating. By the time I got to the end of sentence 3, I'm like, honey, I've left the room. I've scrolled on. Stop.
So there is a thing as too slow.
There is a thing as too slow.
Okay.
I have a friend who only listens to anything at 1.5 or 2 times the speed. So I'm like, okay.
So I'm also like that and there's specific speakers who just speak too quickly that you can't do that. But in most cases, I ain't nobody got time. Time is money.
Ain't nobody got time for that. So I really appreciate your point about speed. Other things that you can do in order to increase how confident you feel and how confident you sound, because there's positive cycle that we want to roll out. One is slower. We feel ourselves become more articulate when we slow down. And you're like, oh, look at me, putting all these fancy words in a single sentence and ending them. Sweet, look at me being smart. So slowing down also helps us feel smart. Slower, not slow. You can write that down. Something else that we can do is about volume. Mm-hmm. Often, and this is perhaps particularly true of people who are delivering in high-pressure contexts, where the outcome really matters, is they fade at the end of the paragraph. One of the characteristics of confident speech is people get stronger to finish the sentence. They get stronger to finish out the paragraph. So it was really great meeting you here today, and I'm so glad we were. Whisper, whisper, whisper.
So they do their own fade out.
Don't fade. Do not fade on your own parade. Bring it down to the dot at the end of the sentence and deliver it hard and then stop. And
I assume throughout the paragraph there is benefit to go up and down, right? To fluctuate your level of speaking, right? Is that a thing?
The thing that we crave, Helen's going hard on this one. We're talking about a hill to die on. Here's one of mine. The thing that we crave is variety. Now, this is more like theoretical, so I want to drive back to the practical in just a moment.
Okay.
So perhaps I'll try to do it in 2 parts. The thing we crave is variety. The more variety you build into your text, the more an audience will be engaged, re-engaged, engaged, re-engaged. And the way you do that to make it practical is if you have a text you know you want to deliver, then color code them. Here I'm going to go louder because this is close to my heart. Or here this is pink because I'm going to try to bring in some humor here. Create emotional variety, create speed variety, create list variety. Here I am right now using the voice of a list. 1, 2, roll them out. Strong, clear, solid. These are the ways that we create variety in our speech. And every time we switch it up even really quickly, we create variety that brings people in.
Especially in the world of social media and TikTok, where people's attention spans are so short. And I saw somewhere that when you watch a movie, the shot almost never lasts for more than 18 seconds. They always have to switch the shot because our minds are so ADD. So if I'm giving a half-hour lecture, it needs to be the visual needs to change, the tone, the words. You could even like throw things in, or like rhetorical questions, or I love when speakers will say, if you haven't listened to anything I said, listen to this, right? Because it just brings people, you have to bring people back. And essentially you have to earn your audience again and again and again.
Yeah, you do. Your goal, for example, if you're speaking outside your company, or, you know, if you're a marketer who is supporting the people who are going out to speak at events, is to break it up, switch it up, break it up. A bit of humor, a bit of this, bit of that, bit of this, bit of technical, bit of high-level picture thinking. Switch it up.
Okay. So going back to where we originated, I'm in a meeting with my team. How do I build that? How do I market myself within my organization?
Take notes. If you're not taking notes, take notes now. Are you ready? I can wait another moment.
I was born ready.
Honey. Yeah, you were. I'm going to suggest a number of formats that you can use to build your messages, or also help the speakers who are coming from your company do better, have greater clarity in the structures that they deliver. So for the people who want to raise their profile within their company, who are speaking at meetings or run a team or want to get noticed by their manager, here are some formats you can use that apply for beginners, middlers, tops level people who are managing whatever. Here we go. The most obvious, which works for marketers, is problem, solution, benefit. And I'll say this as a side note. The way you can deliver this at a meeting is you get ready for the meeting. It is seldom that somebody does an accurate problem analysis on the spot. So if you're going to a meeting where there's something that really matters to you, take a moment and plan which one of these formats will best help me serve up my idea in a succinct, clear way. So get ready is also about self-respect, content respect, and audience respect. I'll go on that. That's another hill. Please note all the hills that Helen wants to sacrifice herself on. Okay. Get ready. So problem, solution, benefit. Clear definition of the problem. What is the obvious solution? And then the benefit that will accrue to you or to the company or the team if that solution is rolled out. That's the way to go. Most people come and they're like, what about this solution? What about this solution? What about, you're arguing about solutions, and then it's about ego and who's got better cachet within the company, or Americans say cash.
Yeah.
It's adding the problem definition, which creates clarity, and then the benefit that will accrue afterwards creates a more robust way to talk about your solution, whatever it is. It doesn't mean your solution will be adopted, but it does mean that your credibility will be recognized. Next, what? So what? What's next? Classic format for saying how to open a meeting, how to do like a reset inside a meeting, and also for handing out responsibilities at the end of it. What are we talking about? Clarifying what it is, the thing that we're doing. So what is always what's important. Why is it important? Why and important are two great words to use when you're making the case for what it is you want to say. And what's next? Classic tool for people who are listening to us who are managers. So we might say about our podcast today, What we're doing is talking about communication techniques that can help anybody, no matter what point they're at in their marketing career, beginner, middle, or high-level executives in marketing, to communicate their content, their ideas, their expertise, their brilliance more effectively to whoever they're working with. And that's important because everybody needs to get heard and establish their credibility. And what's next is I'm going to go on to the next technique.
Hey, I'm not going to stop you.
I think you should.
I should?
No, you shouldn't. You can. You can. So what I would want you to think about today as you're listening is problem, solution, benefit. When could I use that? What is a meeting I have coming up now? Open your calendar. Look, what do you have coming up where you could be like, what will help my case be rolled out more effectively is problem, solution, benefit. What will help my case be rolled out more effectively is framing what I want to talk about more effectively. What's next helps you frame.
I will say that the problem, solution, benefit is, it's funny because that's the methodology we use in marketing.
Of course.
Right? For a product. So what problem is it solving? What are solution, I would call those features. How does the product address those challenges? And benefits, how am I making my customer's life better? Right? So it's...
Absolutely. It's a gorgeous marketing story. It's the backbone of most marketing stories.
Of any story, in a way.
We could
argue that.
I'm happy to share how it might be integrated in different storytelling formats. But these are storytelling structures, text structures, idea structures that deliver. I want to say for the record, problem, solution, benefit can also be rolled out in a reverse order. So you first talk about the benefit, the state that you want to achieve, and then you contrast it with by virtue of the solution you want to bring, and then you leave people with FOMO at the end of like, where we'll be if we don't do this. You bring them back to the problem that they're currently facing. So nothing is written in stone. The ideal future that we would like to be in is also beautifully served by this format with just playing with the elements. Listen to that. Ask yourself, which one would work better for the people that I'm working with, considering the status of the audience that I'm about to address. If it's higher up the organizational food chain, people at higher levels want to hear stories that relate to big picture thinking, like mental models of the entire map and how it integrates with our structure and our vision, and also how it relates to the competition rather than the ingredients of the cake. Talk to me about the cake. In fact, I'd like you to talk to me about cake. All cake recommendations warmly accepted. This is no longer a conversation about communication. It's just about Helen wants cake.
But isn't communication and cake
just a minute.
Close to the same thing?
Thank you for smiling, because I also think that was funny. I appreciate that.
What I really do appreciate, though, that I think you said that is very important, and I want to kind of come back to, is preparing for meetings. I think most of us, because our day is so busy, because so much is going on, we don't, people send a pre-read. No one reads the pre-read, right? And because I don't have time. So even scheduling some time in my calendar, saying this is the time I'm going to use to prepare for this in this meeting, especially if it's an exec or someone important, someone you want to impress, or a big forum. So it goes back to that point where you said speak fast. It'll be a lot easier for me to speak fast if I already know what I want to say, or some version of that I could then slightly tweak to say. But if I'm coming completely blind and I have to come up with the idea and then speak it quickly, that becomes way harder.
Oh, so true. So true. I want to relate on two levels to what you've said. I'd like the camera to note I'm having a really good time.
Yes.
Okay.
That's a goal.
It's a goal. It's a goal for me personally. I think you can do preparation in 60 seconds or less. Zero prep means on the spot you want to speak up and be brilliant, or at least minimally smart on the spot. Much harder, especially for women people. This is just research. Women like an extra moment to get their thoughts in line because societal pressure, yada, yada. I won't go to the whole thing. But even if you look at the agenda, look at the subject headings, will give you a moment to be like, oh, that's something I could speak up to. Even that will put you in a better position to speak up. And I'll go further and say, I love like mental gymnastics that you did. Like, what if I have a thought and then I want to speak up and then I'm on all the pressure on the moment. Friends, if you know in advance that there is somebody you want to impress, and I love your use of that, and you're on an online call, a virtual meeting, you have fewer decisions to make on the moment, right? There's a conversation flow and there's like, had a thought, I'd like to throw my 2 cents in now. If you have to move your cursor, find the unmute button, click unmute, and then decide to speak up, you've done 2 extra actions. It's like 2 clicks in a funnel. How many people do you lose per click? It's the same process here. The more clicks you have to do in order to join the conversation, the less likely you are to speak up. Unmute people. As long as you remember you're unmuted and you're in a quiet place which won't interrupt what's happening. If you've got a dog who likes to bark at other dogs, not a good idea.
There is actually maybe a kind of side advice for leaders or managers who are leading the meeting. I always kind of give that 2 or 3 seconds of, hey, does anyone else want to say anything? Does anyone else have any ideas? And usually there's always 2 or 3 people that will talk no matter what happens. But then you also have, in my opinion and my experience, you have those that you kind of have to pull it out of them. So as a leader, I think we have a responsibility to, I wouldn't call out people by name unless it's like my employee or, but I will say, hey, I haven't heard from this side of the room, or hey, so-and-so, this is a great idea. I'm wondering if anyone else has something to say. And I think that element is way more complex when you have people in the room and people on the Zoom. From my experience, people in the room always feel like, okay to speak, we're right here. But those people in the Zoom kind of feel disconnected, and especially if you're part of a distributed team where you have remote team members. I will go and say, hey, we heard a lot in the room. Anyone on the Zoom have what to add? And give them that opportunity to be part of the physical conversation.
You'd see that is just such an exceptional quality to display. Like, really, kudos. I am brought into companies to run a session called How to Run More Inclusive Meetings. And I don't mean inclusive in the sense of like greater variety of the kind of people and experience and background. And what I'm talking about is how to get more voices heard in the same conversation on a consistent basis. And that question of like, who else would like to chime in? Great. Other questions exactly in this box are things like, who thinks differently? Who would like to share an alternative position? Or, I hear that you think this is not a good idea. Is there somebody who would like to challenge that? And inviting difference creates greater democracy, greater variety in the space. So as a manager, if you're a person who manages others, inviting more people into the conversation means you will do a better job and you'll reduce churn in your own team.
And you'll also benefit by not just getting the ideas of those who speak loudest, because the person who makes the most noise is not necessarily the smartest person in the room. The best idea may be from the person who's slightly more quiet, who is on Zoom, whose dog is barking in the background, who can unmute. So sometimes, like, it's your responsibility. This is not a nice to have. This is your job as a manager to get every single great idea out of the people.
Whoop, whoop. Helen's like, can we have the disco ball, please? The 3 loudest people usually speak loudest, longest, and first. Often there's like 3 people who respond to an opening, and then it feels like collaboration, and it's not. It feels like consensus. It's not. It's the same 3 people. Once I ran this session called How to Run Inclusive Meetings, the CEO came on and he talked for, I'm going to say 15 minutes straight, and then he left.
That's a dictatorship is what they call it.
It's like I really care about inclusive conversations. I just don't have time for them. Not about inclusive that includes you. I want to throw in another couple of formats, if that's okay. Or did you want to take us somewhere else?
No. I'm very curious. Learning a lot.
Whoop, whoop. We'll bring out a second disco ball. We've got a couple of heels. We've got some disco balls. It's all going on.
We're going to start dancing, Helen.
Honey, I'm ready. I'm ready. In terms of chronology, people often want to start a story, like people who stand up and present at a conference, start way back when and then bring us up to date. Friends, stop it. Stop it now. Stop. Far more interesting is present, past, future. Tell me where we are now at this exact point of time. You can give me a bit of background, how we got here, and then tell me, microphone. Tell me where we're going. So much more interesting. It works in interviews and it works on stage. Describe to me effectively where we are. Past, limit it because we all pretty much know how we got here, and then take me to the future. And in general, I would say this in terms of people who are coaching others on stories, coaching others on, for example, the problem, solution, benefit format. We understand the problem. We really do. We will understand the problem very fast, especially depending on the culture that you come from. Do not tell me that cancer is a problem. We know. We understand. You don't need 15 slides and 10 minutes to tell me cancer is not nice. Honestly, I just dropped my pen on the table. You can imagine it as a mic drop if you like. Stop. We get the problem fast.
I had a issue with that exact problem when I had a product manager present to a group of analysts. Now, these analysts have researched this specific domain for 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
And this product manager comes to the presentation, and his first slide is, these are the challenges that we are looking to solve with this product. And it's, they're reading off the various challenges. And then you ask and the analyst at some point said, we know the challenges. We wrote it. We researched this in great depth. You don't have to tell us why this needs to exist. Take it. Show me what you have. What are you offering? Kind of going back to the solutions, the benefits that you're providing versus the competition. I know the market. I know what it looks like. I know what the customers are looking for. I know the challenge. I know cancer is a problem. So I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. We may need a single sentence or two to say, like, I understand your world, but then
right.
Let's go. Move
it's a
on
sentence
fast.
and not 15 minutes.
Hello. And then also, I'm sorry, I'm laughing. I'm sorry. This is trying not to laugh too hard into the mic. People who open their presentation by showing me the whole agenda. Stop. Stop. No one is going to remember this slide. No one is going to take a photograph of this slide. It's how you organized your content. We don't care. We don't care.
If you're getting in, okay, yeah.
We don't care.
If we're getting into the world of presentations, it drives me crazy, and I would love to get a professional's opinion here when people read off slides.
No!
Or people use...
Stop it! Don't say those words.
Or people use a presentation almost as a crutch. Because if you're just going to read the slides, kind of like my mother used to read me story books as a child, just send me the slides, I'll read it, we'll save time, we'll all be happier. Why read the slides? So can you talk a little bit about what needs to be on the slide relative to what's being spoken?
Yeah. You are the storyteller. We have to differentiate between the deck that you send, which has to be all-inclusive, has to speak for itself, has to be self-explanatory, and the deck you use when you present. They are not the same. They may not be even same species. If you are reading a sentence off a slide, you're not being respectful of your audience. I don't know about who's listening today, but I started reading really, really well at the age of 7. I don't need you to read a sentence off a slide to me. I do not. The slide is there for ideas, to make give a visual support for something that's hard for me to grasp. And even then, there should be one story per slide. One. So don't put our ICP next to a graph of our hockey stick process with how much money we've raised from these two companies, or the size of our customer base with this company. And stop it. One story per slide. It's enough. Your visuals have to support the storyteller, the engager, the connector with people who are in the room, not the other way around. Make me stop. Okay.
So an extra slide is free, is what you're saying. What I really like in my mind,
that's so cute. It's
right?
just like, just click through. And if we're talking about variety, let's talk also about visual variety. You can put up a slide which is like for 60 seconds and put up a slide which is 10.
Right.
Nothing should be tick, 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 tick. Not you, not your visuals, not your voice. Nada.
I really like those presentations that have no words or very little words or one word or two word. That's when I see a slide that has, it's essentially a short book. I can't read it. My eyes are not good enough. I'm trying to listen to you and I can't read the 30, 40 words you put on the slide. So I'm just confused. I really appreciate those slides. And, if you do want to put points or you want to kind of you're going to talk a lot and you want to explain like the three main pillars and you want to put them on a slide, that's great, but keep it to 2 words to 3 words. Like in my mind, any slide that has more than 20, 15 words is overkill. I think most slides should have no words or very few words.
10 is classic.
Okay.
And nothing smaller than a 28 font. Your job, if it's there, the audience should be able to see it. You don't need footnotes. Here's a really good note for marketers who are often, I understand, responsible for building decks for their speakers. If you've got like a heading with a text to explain it underneath, lose the explanation. No one can read it. In fact, you don't want your audience to read it, and I'll go further. If you have a lot of words on your slide, your audience, because of the variety response, as soon as there's something new, we're attracted to it, your audience is going to actively block out the voice of your speaker and start reading your slides. The more technical they are, the more this happens. So you have literally created a tool to undermine yourself in your own presentation. Lose the explanation. Give me the headings and then you give the explanation. You walk me through it. You're the engager. Bro, engage. Bring me in. I want to hit very quickly the idea of how to use a case study, how to use an actual example from the field in which you want to demonstrate capacity and competence. You want to bring your story with a timestamp, with a location, with as many details as you can in order to get it launched, to deliver credibility. A story that starts with, well, I knew a guy who loved working with us. I just laughed at you, and I'm not, I don't pretend to be nice, but that was even in your face. I laughed at you. No credibility. When, who, where, what. Tell me the specifics. That's how you build credibility for a case study. And then it's never enough to tell me, oh, we did this with such and such. You have to tell me what it means. So the sequence is example, and then what it means, and then its importance on the bigger playing field, from the one to the many, from the specific to the broadly applicable. This is how we roll. And humans understand the one much more than we can understand, the million. We don't understand the million. Give me 1, give me 2, give me 3. And I'll be like, oh, I can understand 3. Oh, 3. 3 is a good number. Give me 17. Stop. We can't listen past 3.
I had colleagues that used to make fun of me that I worked on a product that was used by a few 100 million people. And I would always tell a story, it would always be also a different story that I wouldn't think of. It would just come to me out of nowhere about a small family. And my colleagues would mock me, like, where the hell do you come up with this stuff? But in my mind, you can empathize with a million people. You could empathize with an individual who has a challenge, who's going through something.
Yeah. Yes. the developer who went viral recently on Reddit because he did such and such with a tool and then deleted his entire database. Yeah, that guy, you understand. And that's the warning story that you can use to talk about the general, problem with people who don't use their tools effectively. That's the case study to importance. The next one that I want to share is about move, change, and relevance. Move, change, relevance. Something happened that occurred. There was a static situation. The Hobbit is living at home. He's having a lovely day. And then all of a sudden, something moves in the immediate environment. There's a surprise guest, and that causes a change. So he leaves home and he goes out on a huge adventure. And then the final part is relevant, what that means for you. You could use this as a format for storytelling. Every day, people are doing such and such. Offering them this creates this kind of change, and why it's relevant to you is because of this. That's like we call it the Pixar spine of the stories, from everything from Looking for Nemo to The Hobbit. It's the same story, a state of being, a change that occurred, and then the relevance that brings it to the audience. When you said like problem, solution, benefit is the backbone for most stories, I think I would challenge that. It can be a change that occurs. But then again, no tension, no story.
Right.
So I hear that as well.
No, you see that a lot exactly in books and movies, that everything is regular, but there has to be something, right? Something needs to happen that puts our hero on a journey.
Yeah.
And you very often, sometimes you'll have like it starts immediately, right? But usually you do have, okay, these are the characters, they're living their regular life, and then boom, something happens. Someone wins a lottery, someone gets murdered, they interact with someone who puts them on some kind of mission, and then we as an audience are now invested. We knew the character, we empathize with that character, now we can go on this mission with them.
I love that you use the example of like, we start boom, because this is also the way we should tell a story. Don't give 100 years of background, but rather open with leap. We call it leap into action. Open with the big thing that happened. We were all like this, and then boom. That's the way to begin. Leap in. Don't be like, oh, it was like yada yada.
In French, we call that the hook, right?
That's French?
No, it's not. It's English.
I'm like, le hook.
Le hook.
Le hook. Apparently, I'm learning French today. Okay. I'll throw in a few extra things for people who are in-person meetings and also could be relevant for online. So we spoke a lot about voice, perhaps because we're in a voice-centered context here. But if you're watching, where we're both looking absolutely fabulous, let me just say, fabulous. So good. There are things that we can do with our bodies that also help reinforce how we feel and how we sound and how we appear to others. So we've spoken a lot about variety in voice, slow down, which helps you feel smarter and that makes you feel more confident, and then people see the confidence, yada, yada. There are things that we can do with our hands. You'll notice here's my left hand. For those of you who can't see me, I just raised my left hand, and here comes my right one. There's two of these puppies. I take them everywhere. When we use two-handed gestures, we look stronger. Somebody who's going like, or I'm clapping my hands in different ways, or brings their hands forward like this, we're like, oh, this person is focused and they're driving their content forward. Somebody is hiding their hands under the table, the hands are not visible, they've got their hands in their pockets. These are things where we're like, are you not engaged enough to use your hands? And then at the other end of the spectrum, we have passivity. Now, passivity, relaxation, is associated often with higher status or lack of engagement. When something's really important to us, we tend to naturally bring our bodies forward, and we can signal this is really important to me. You can tell because here I am. I'm up and forward. But if I want you to work harder to get my attention, I might lean way back in my chair. Imagine my own feet up on the table here. And what happens is you will lean towards me. It's a technique which I've coached people on to get more attention from their direct managers, their direct superiors. When they're struggling to extract an answer, when a person of lower status in the organizational hierarchy leans back in a meeting, then we're signaling that you may need to work harder to get my attention, or I'm not in your pocket. I will also put this, this should come with a warning label. Friends, be cautious in how often you want to broadcast I'm delivering really high status behavior to you. It's boss behavior. So be careful with that.
So just to kind of sum up that point, it sounds very similar to the speaking technique that you gave, to be a little bit all over the place, to change the variety of how you speak. So the same needs to happen in your in your body language, right? Your hands, maybe you're also, especially if you're giving a lecture, not if you're in a meeting, but if you're talking at RSA, you're moving around, you're using your hands, you're pointing, right? So being physical to complement the variety in the talk.
Yeah.
If you're able to do both of those together, that would be very strong.
It's beautiful. So if we're talking about moving around, I also want to say, like we've spoken about voice, we should do head, shoulders, knees and toes, right? So eye contact remains really important. Back of the room, front of the room, left, right. Just play with it. Build it into your practice. So that's eyes. If you're on a podcast, you would want to turn your body towards someone. And if you're on a panel, you would want to turn your whole body towards the person you're speaking to. If I was to be speaking to your colleague over here, Yitzy, I would turn all my body towards her. Not be like this, where my shoulder and my knee is crossed the other way away from her. Turn all the lines of your body towards the person you want to be engaged with. So that's head, shoulder, knees and toes. Let's talk about feet on stage. Stop it. Stop walking. Get a couple of heavy bricks and put them on your shoes and stop walking around. We like people to use their hands when they've got a reason to use them. We want people to move on stage when they've got a reason to move. The idea that the human metronome is more interesting is based in an idea that no one has done the research on. It's not true. You don't have a reason to move, then the tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock becomes tiring. We start to ignore it. The thing that works is variety. I'm a TEDx coach. I can tell you how to use that little red carpet. You don't need to be walking. You don't need to be getting your steps in front of the audience in order to deliver a good presentation. Shift from one side to another when you're moving from topic to topic. It's enough. It's enough.
And by the way, that's probably where the color coding can help you out, right? When you have the different, if you have your speech and you color coded it, you know that when you go from section to section, you may want to change the tone of your voice, but also maybe change your physicality.
Spectacular. Good point. You can put that in green.
That's your tip. I'm just learning from it.
I'll take it.
I guess my final question would be, how do I practice? You know, obviously I could go into a meeting tomorrow or deliver a webinar or a speech tomorrow and just like try things out. But for people who are starting out who really lack the confidence, do you have any guidance on how do I get better at it before I go live?
So there are a bunch of AI tools out there that you can use. There's something on Gemini 3, I believe, where you can like deliver a text and it will give you a whole lot of teaching tips back, coaching tips back about delivery, body language, speed, pitch, all sorts of stuff will come into that feedback that you can get from an AI tool. You could work with somebody like me, just saying, and you can record yourself. Now, this is like for the bravest of the brave and people who are really committed to getting better. And the way you record yourself is this. You record yourself and then you watch yourself with the sound off. And what you do is you see, how am I turning up? How warm am I? What is the visual variety that I'm bringing in my own self? How much am I moving? What am I doing with my hands? Are my hands out of control and my right hand doesn't know what my left hand is doing, or perhaps my right hand has left the building? Watch and then replay and just listen. So you're only listening for the oral track. Is there variety? Is it fun? Am I engaging? Am I nice to hear? Should I work with a voice coach? Should I work with somebody who can help me articulate my language better? I have a couple of people that I'm happy to connect you to if that's the case.
No, but
that's for the brave.
Right.
That's for the brave.
It sounds like the most terrifying thing I've heard ever, to watch yourself without sound. But I do that's really, it's good to record yourself, even if you're never going to watch it and you're going to delete it automatically. You're kind of put on the spot. What I've played around with recently is the feature on Gemini where you could actually converse with it. It's kind of good to have, to feel like you're live and tell Gemini, hey, I have this lecture, I'm delivering this webinar. Can you listen in and act as the moderator, act as whatever? And Gemini will go along with you. It'll give you feedback. It won't rate you from 1 to 10. It told me it's an AI, so it doesn't do ratings. But there are tools out there. And look, when I had really important interviews way back when, I would find a neighbor, a friend, a partner, and say, hey, here are the questions, ask me. Or I would tell them, it was a behavioral interview. I'd say, go into Google, put in top 10 behavioral questions, ask me those questions, and let me answer. Now, they don't know if I did well or not, but that just practicing and doing it and structuring my answers was extremely helpful to me.
I'm such a believer in practice because I believe people can always get better. People who have a learning mindset can always get better. The goal is not perfection. There is no such thing as perfection, but the goal is always to move the needle a little bit.
I will say before we go that you are a coach. You'll come to organizations and deliver workshops, help the entire team improve in that skill. You'll work with leaders and managers. You'll also work with one-on-one, right? If you have a sales kickoff or a customer event and you have a few speakers, you'll work with that speaker to help them improve. So we'll tag you in the post, and I would highly recommend that you guys reach out to Helen. Before we go, I do want to thank Google for Startups. They're our home for this. Google for Startups is actually a great place for startups who are just starting out and need their surrounding and need the support and want to see people every day. So Google gives you a lot of the tools in addition to just the actual space. This podcast is made in part and with the help of three wonderful women, Rotem Simon, Atara Levy, and Shahar Kedar, who are here in the room with us and are acting as awesome companions to what we're doing. This was super interesting. If you like this, please subscribe, comment, reach out to Helen. Helen, this was way more than I could ever imagine. I really appreciate you taking the time.
It was such a pleasure to be with you, Yitzy. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much.